Well, last week, a 31-year-old man was jailed for 12 weeks for a similar offence. Let's talk about this with Nick Freeman, lawyer and commentator. Always good to have you on with us, Nick. What I'm tempted to say, whatever anybody thinks about this, whether somebody should go to jail, shouldn't go to jail, would it be fair to say if this happened a month ago, they probably wouldn't have gone to jail?
Well, absolutely. Given that this gentleman pleaded guilty, he removed the post and he apologised, so he's mitigated his offence as fully as he can. He would have probably been fined. It would have probably been looked at on the basis of, there are three categories, A, B and C, A being the most serious, C being the least. It would have been probably looked at on the basis of category C, and he would have probably been fined. When you look at category A, the sentencing guidelines start at high-end community penalty going up to 15 weeks custody. That's the guideline, they're guidelines. And I think the judge took the view, well, he sentenced somebody last week to 12 weeks, and this gentleman was given a third discount for pleading guilty, hence his sentence of 8 weeks, of which he'll probably do maybe 3. The idea, obviously, is, look, this is a national emergency. It's civil unrest. The courts they're independent, but they're aware of what's going on, and disorder needs to be quelled. And one of the best ways of doing that is bringing people to the courts very quickly, and those who plead guilty, letting them feel the full force of the law, the strong arm of justice. And this has a huge deterrent effect, and I think it's worked. And it doesn't stick in my throat, but I think that this approach adopted by this government has actually been very successful, coupled with policing and other measures. So I think it has achieved its goal. Of course, all the people who have pleaded not guilty, they're going to be incarcerated for a long, long period of time because of the backlog. But so to answer your question, yes, a month ago, I think he would have received a fine, but he knew at the time that he was poking the bear, he was stoking a riot situation, and the judge, in my view, has dealt with it correctly.
Do you sense that, I mean, we talk about the separation of government and justice, and the judicial system, as you know, as a lawyer, are quite clear and very firm on this idea. We're not going to be interfered with from Number 10 or anyone else. But clearly, the judiciary has been interfered with here, right? Because that message hasn't just come from autonomous judges who've all joined in with the same feeling. Somebody somewhere has sent a message down, surely.
I can only speculate. Look, the Prime Minister has been very public about how these matters should be dealt with, and he's referred repeatedly to people going to prison straight away. Whether there's been a discreet word with the people at the top, I don't know. But if you were sitting as a judge and you were looking at the civil unrest and you had your sentencing guidelines, you will be perfectly entitled of your own volition to say, this is a dire emergency and I need to bring this to a halt. He needs to be punished or she needs to be punished, and I need to send out the deterrent message. So the judiciary is completely independent. They'll obviously hear the news, and they'll do what they believe is the right thing. So I anticipate they've heard Starmer. They know what's going on in the country. Yeah. They've used their intelligence. They use the sentencing guidelines. There's a whole range of sentencing within those guidelines, and they've taken the view, because of the civil unrest, this actually is what needs to happen. And I think they're right. So, I think, yes, on a public platform, Starmer's conveyed a message. Yeah. I think it would be very risky for him to have a quiet word, because that would interfere with the independence.
Well, indeed.
If there was ever a whistleblower, then that would cause him a huge problem. Bear in mind, he's talking about integrity, isn't he?
That's true.
And cleaning up politics. So I have to say, no, he wouldn't.
But a bit like Tony Soprano, you don't have to say it out loud. It just goes down the chain without anybody being specifically
It's heard loud and clear.
Indeed.
Absolutely.
As we speak, Nick, a 53-year-old woman, Julie Sweeney, has just been jailed at Chester Crown Court for 15 months after she admitted sending a threatening Facebook message on August the 3rd. And this is what she wrote: "Don't protect the mosques, blow the mosques up with adults in it." Now, that is clearly inflammatory. It's clearly incitement. It's deeply unpleasant. Maybe a couple of months ago she would have got jailed for that. I mean, that's very specific.
I think she would. It's very serious. It's inflammatory, and if you look at it in the context of what was happening when people were talking about attacking hotels and killing the people inside, then you know, she's got her just desserts, hasn't she?
I mean, we've had, this isn't entirely new. There was the fella, do you remember a few years ago, who wrote a tweet about blowing up Robin Hood Airport, and he was, it was a joke. I think his flight had been delayed. You know, I want to blow the whole place up or something like that. And it was overturned on appeal, and we've had other sort of cases since. This comes into another part of the debate, I suppose, Nick, about, you know, what people are allowed to post and not allowed to post. And I quite naively always assume that here we are in 2024 and social media's been around for 15 odd years or whatever it is, maybe more. I think by now everybody knows, but, you know, explaining subjudice to my sister, for example, would be a fool's errand. I mean, there would be no point. She wouldn't realise that she has to adhere to the same rules as the publisher of the Times or of Talk Radio or of the BBC. Individuals have to abide by those laws, but how many people really know that?
I think they know now. I think the amount of attention that's I think everyone knows, and if you take to social media, you'll be very careful about what you say. You'll be very circumspect and actually think, even if it's on your private WhatsApp group, is it appropriate to pass this on? Maybe not. So I think it will have conveyed a message loud and clear to everybody who uses social media platforms.
There it is. Nick, thank you for your time. Nick Freeman, he is, of course, lawyer and commentator on that point. I'm massively